This is a flagrant violation of international law and demands a firm response from the international community.
Developing this morning, the president taking action, President Biden and U.S. allies announcing sanctions against Russia. The president saying an invasion of Ukraine is now underway.
And new this morning, the Kremlin has released a new video of Russian President Vladimir Putin saying Russia's interests and security are, quote, non-negotiable, but adds Russia is open for direct and honest dialogue. The White House and the European allies are vowing more punishment if the situation in Ukraine continues to escalate.
Yeah, we have live team coverage of the crisis in Ukraine. Moments ago, by the way, Ukrainian officials declaring a state of emergency for much of the country. CBS 4's Bradley Blackburn live at the United Nations with more. Bradley.
Hey, Candace and Maribel. So Vladimir Putin calls Russian forces on the ground in eastern Ukraine peacekeeping troops. But yesterday here at the United Nations, the Secretary General called that a perversion of the idea of peacekeeping. He is one of many world leaders now criticizing Russia for creating an international crisis. The U.S. and its allies have started to roll out sanctions against Russia for sending troops into eastern Ukraine, a move President Biden called the start of a broader offensive.
To put it simply, Russia just announced that it is carving out a big chunk of Ukraine.
The sanctions announced Tuesday target 2 Russian state banks and several individuals linked to the Kremlin. The president described the penalties as a first tranche and said more could follow.
If Russia goes further with this invasion, we stand prepared to go further as with sanctions.
Russian leader Vladimir Putin showed no sign of backing down. Yesterday, he defended his decision to recognize 2 separatist areas as independent states and said Moscow now has an obligation to defend them. Satellite images showed new Russian military deployments to the region. Today, here at the United Nations, the General Assembly is set to meet, and the deteriorating situation in Ukraine will be the focus of the conversation.
It is high time to return to the path of dialogue and negotiations.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken canceled Thursday's sit-down with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The White House says it's still open to talks.
We're never going to completely close the door to diplomacy, and I don't think the Secretary of State did that either. But just to build on what he just said, diplomacy can't succeed unless Russia changes course.
U.S. officials say President Putin and the Kremlin don't appear to be looking to engage in serious discussions. And more countries are joining in sanctions against Russia. This morning, Japan and Australia added their names to the list. Meanwhile, other than economic measures, President Biden is also ordering more American troops, fighter jets, and other military resources into Eastern Europe to back up NATO countries that border Russia. Reporting at the UN this morning, Bradley Blackburn, CBS 4 News.